Thank you, Mary. We are so honored to have our famous Senator Dan Wolf, who has been a champion of calling for the shutdown.
Did you say famous or infamous? Funny you ask. Okay. It is an honor to be here. There's one reason why Pilgrim is going to be shut down, and I believe with our continued pressure it will be way sooner than 2019. But there's one reason and one reason alone, and that is because the great citizen activists here in this room, and by extension the thousands of people who have raised their voices, all of the towns in my district on Cape Cod who have voted to hold that company responsible for the impacts that it's doing, have put pressure on the government agencies, the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, the Environmental Protection Agency, the Massachusetts Emergency Management Agency, and the Department of Environmental Protection, just to name a few, 2 federal and 2 state, to do their freaking job, okay? And what Mary said is absolutely true. Right now, with Entergy knowing that there is a date certain that they will be leaving, what they will do, which any responsible corporation is actually obligated to do, which is protect shareholder value, not protect safety, but protect shareholder value, will be looking to reduce the amount of money they spend at the expense of our safety. They are protecting the risk of their shareholders and putting that ahead of the risk of the citizens in the shadow of that plant. So again, what you're hearing today, let's call this 10% celebration, but let's call it 90% inspiration and perspiration to keep the pressure on to make sure that that plant does not get refueled, and then to make sure that the spent fuel rod assemblies in that plant get transferred from a less stable, more vulnerable environment where they are today to a more stable and less vulnerable environment where they need to be as quickly as possible. So, I'm having a bit of a time warp because the great student and citizen activists of the present and future sitting behind me from a great public school in my district, Nauset Regional High School, are consider this my ask to you for the day, are only about 2 years younger than I was when I was involved in nonviolent civil disobedience at the Seabrook nuclear power plant in 1977. And I have to say, I mean, you don't want to say when you predict something that's not good is going to happen. A lot of the things we were talking about, which for you students will seem like the blink of an eye the next 37 years, I hate to say that, but it's true. A lot of those things we were talking about in the late 70s, whether there would be proper oversight while these plants were in operation, what was going to happen to the spent fuel, what is it going to look like after these plants have lived their useful lives. We transition these facilities, and look at the beauty of the physical location, the environment that these facilities are in, into permanent nuclear waste dumps for generations to come. So a lot of what we were talking about back then actually has come to be true. So what I say to my citizen activist next generation friends behind me is, trust your instincts, believe what you're figuring out today and what that means about your vision for tomorrow, and follow your passion and follow that vision, because you are emerging as the leaders that will put us on the right track on this issue. And to many of us in our generation who should actually hang our heads in shame for what we are leaving these kids, for what we think our legacy will be if we don't actually fix this stuff. You should continue to give us one swift kick in the butt after another until we get it right, so that what we hand off to you as we do this handoff generationally is something that you actually can use as a platform to build a great tomorrow for your children and your grandchildren. So, in closing, let me just say, this is not a time, as you've been hearing, to rest on the celebration. Let's inhale, celebrate, but let's do a long exhale and say, now is the time to make sure that the government is really doing its oversight and enforcement going forward to make sure that this plant is decommissioned and that the spent fuel there is responsibly taken care of in the months and years ahead. We can do this, but we need to do it by amping up the volume and by turning brighter the light, not by saying, oh good, job accomplished. And I will tell you, what I'm hearing in district is people think, okay, on to the next issue. Well, I think we need to make sure we make people understand that what is the next issue is the Pilgrim nuclear power plant. That is the next issue in our backyard. And of course, you'll hear from the folks coming to speak to you about Seabrook as well. So thank you for the support. Make sure that my two bills, one which would assess the $10,000 per year fee on the wet stored fuel rod assemblies to incentivize Entergy quickly to move them into dry storage, make sure that we get that bill passed, and the bill that would put another $25 million a year into the decommissioning fund, to be returned, of course, if they don't end up needing it. But we know the fund is underfunded at this point. Make sure that those bills pass in an expeditious way, and that Sarah Peak's bills on the emergency evacuation zone and the monitoring also pass as well. So again, thank you. This is your house. So thank you for letting me share it with you today and for the past 4 years. And together we will get this done. Have a great afternoon.